former officer has been indicted for his actions in the shooting of Breonna Taylor, but what he wasn't charged for sparked protests in Kentucky.
A new poll tells us that many young voters are siding with Biden in the upcoming election, but a social media campaign reveals they may not be so enthusiastic to do so.
And one COVID-positive USC student shares what it's like to live in quarantine at the USC hotel. Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
A former Louisville police officer has been indicted for his actions on the night Breonna Taylor was shot to death. Good evening, I'm Evan Falstrup.
And I'm Olivia Novato. After 6 months of protests, calls for justice, and an investigation, the officer was indicted on first-degree endangerment charges. The grand jury's decision to not charge the officer with Taylor's death sparked outrage and was met with a sweep of protests in Louisville. The Kentucky Attorney General provided background for the grand jury's indictment.
Mattingly fired 6 shots. Almost simultaneously, Detective Cosgrove, also in the doorway, shot 16 times. This all took place in a matter of seconds. In total, 6 bullets struck Ms. Taylor. Medical evidence obtained by our team indicates that only 1 shot was fatal.
In anticipation of protests, the Kentucky National Guard has been activated and a 72-hour countywide curfew has been set by Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher.
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg lies in repose before the Supreme Court steps. Mourners are visiting her casket to pay tribute to her legacy in women's rights. Justice Ginsburg's casket will lie in front of the Supreme Court for 2 days as hundreds of mourners bid farewell. Justice Roberts delivered a eulogy at the court this morning.
Her voice in court and in our conference room was soft, but when she spoke, people listened. Of course, she will live on in what she did to improve the law and the lives of all of us. And yet, still, Ruth is gone, and we grieve.
On Friday, Ginsburg will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, the first woman in history to receive that honor. She will be buried next week at Arlington National Cemetery.
I'm Samantha MOSKOW reporting from Los Angeles. The Institute of Politics at the Harvard Kennedy School polled more than 1,200 young Americans on their voting habits. The survey found that Biden has a 33% lead over Trump among young voters, but only 35% of those voters are very enthusiastic about the candidate compared to the 56% for Trump. These numbers are consistent with the popular group and social media hashtag Settle for Biden. I spoke with one of the hashtag's followers.
We don't have time to be picky, choosy, and not want to vote for Joe Biden just because you don't really like him. Like, we really, really need Trump out of office. I don't have another option.
Annenberg Media conducted an Instagram poll and found 95% of students are registered to vote. The sample size was very small. Only 22 followers responded, 21 answered yes, there was 1 no. You can register to vote at www.vote.gov.
Cindy McCain, widow of Republican Senator John McCain, took to Twitter to endorse Democratic candidate Joe Biden for president. In her announcement, McCain emphasizes the importance of allegiance to American values over party loyalty. In a tweet, McCain said, "My husband John lived by a code, country first. We are Republicans, yes, but Americans foremost. There's only one candidate in this race who stands up for our values as a nation, and that is Joe Biden." A USC alum from a military family supports McCain's endorsement.
For those who are moderate, I hope that they can see that this election is so much more than just party lines. It's so much more now about what do we want America to look like? What are our country's values? What do we value as people? And that's what the McCains stand for. That's what John McCain always stood for. The McCains are really warriors for American values and for military families and military communities.
John McCain's Arizona Senate seat will be decided in a special election in November. It's become an even more crucial race in the wake of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing.
USC weekly COVID-19 numbers remain mostly steady. There is a slight increase in the number of students testing positive for the virus over the week before. Employees were also tested, and there was not one single positive result. A total of just over 2,200 students who had no symptoms of the virus used pop-up testing. 21 students had the virus. That is less than 1% of those tested. 168 employees were tested and all came out negative. Of the 150 students exposed to the virus, only 27 tested positive. 13 employees came in close contact with the virus and not one tested positive. An Annenberg Media student is now among the 33 students under quarantine at the USC hotel, according to USC Hospitality. She shared what it's like to be living in quarantine.
I'm Sumner Bradley. I'm a sophomore at USC, and I am now living at the campus hotel. I tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday, and I have not seen anyone since. When I first noticed my symptoms last Monday, I thought it was allergies from the poor air quality. But when I started feeling extremely tired and lost my sense of smell, I knew it was more than allergies. And the reason I knew I lost my smell was because I couldn't smell the litter box or the food from my apartment's new kitten. My pop test at the Gallon Center came back positive, so I threw some clothes in a bag and ended up cooped up in this hotel room until I test negative. It's a basic hotel room with 2 queen beds, a desk, and some generic artwork on the wall. I have a mini fridge, but it's empty. My meals come every day from the room service menu from a $70 allowance per day. The university also drops off water outside my door daily. The hotel provides a USC bathrobe, which keeps me warm while I'm binging Netflix or watching today's newscast. If I'm not doing that, I'm in a Zoom class or working on homework. There's not much else to do. When my alarm goes off at 7:30, I am quick to turn it off, but when I open my eyes, I remember that I am all alone in this hotel room with no roommate. It gets pretty lonely. My family and friends check up on me often, but phone calls are not the same. My parents even suggested flying out here to take care of me, but my symptoms are mostly gone. This isn't the Ritz-Carlton, and I do feel pretty isolated, but I'm grateful that the health center was quick to act and provide me with a place to stay and food to eat.
Quarantining at the USC hotel is an option for students who test positive. This gives students a place to isolate from roommates and housemates, limiting the spread of COVID-19.
More than 800,000 Los Angeles County households could not get affordable and nutritious food at some point during a 4-month period. That's according to a new study released by USC Dornsife. Researchers found more than 1 in 4 LA County households experienced at least one instance of food insecurity from April through July. Food insecurity overwhelmingly affects low-income households, women, Latinos, and households with children.
We need to really strengthen the ability of these communities to have enough financial resources and health resources and food so that they aren't being hit the hardest and going to suffer the long-term health and other consequences of these types of crises. So there's a lot to do to strengthen food justice and food equity and the food system to make sure that everybody in the community is able to eat well.
Currently, we're 125% up in distribution of food. We've done over 100 million pounds of food since the pandemic began and 1 million emergency food boxes.
Dornsife researchers say they have their work cut out for them and are receiving additional funding to further monitor food insecurity in LA County.
A historic announcement today for Cal State University schools. The new chancellor is the first Mexican American to hold the position in the system's 163-year history. Joseph Castro was the first in his family to graduate from a university. He went to UC Berkeley, where he got his undergrad degree in political science and a master's in public policy. Castro went on to receive a PhD from Stanford.
I think it's a historic moment for us. We want our chancellor to reflect our student body and who we're made of. So having a first-gen student, a minority leader being the chancellor of the CSU is so impactful. It just shows to us that, higher education is the path to a better future. And it means a lot to see a reflection of ourselves in these leadership positions.
Castro is taking over his new job after being the president of Cal State Fresno for 7 years.
SPIVEY, reporting from Los Angeles. Notre Dame postponed their game this Saturday versus Wake Forest after 7 players test positive for COVID-19. 13 players are currently in isolation and 10 players are in quarantine. Notre Dame has paused all football activities until further testing is completed. 24 college football games this season have either been postponed or canceled because of COVID-19 outbreak. Baylor, FAU, Houston, and Virginia Tech have all had multiple games postponed since September due to coronavirus issues. These postponements come the same week as the Pac-12 is slated to make a decision to return. The conference has secured access to rapid COVID-19 testing, and USC athletics received their testing machines today. The Pac-12 is also working with local state officials to inform their decision. A Pac-12 representative told Annenberg Media that a CEO group will meet tomorrow to discuss returning to play. Now, let's send it over to Maddie for some pro sports news.
Thank you, NEVAEH. I'm Maddie Gannon reporting from Los Angeles. Last night, the Lakers dropped Game 3 to the Denver Nuggets, snapping their 6-game winning streak. The Lakers trailed by as many as 20 points in the fourth quarter. Even though they cut the lead to 4 points with 3 minutes left, they couldn't make a comeback. LeBron James posted his 26th playoff triple-double. After the game, he said the team's mistakes in the first 3 quarters cost them the win.
Turn the ball over too much. We put them to the free throw line. And, I give credit where credit is due, though. Denver came in and played exceptionally well.
Meanwhile, in LA, the Dodgers defeated the Oakland A's 7-2 last night to earn their 8th straight NL West title. They are the 3rd team in MLB history to win 8 straight division titles. The team wasn't able to celebrate the title with their usual champagne showers. Clayton Kershaw took to Instagram to commemorate the milestone, saying, "No goggles or champagne-burned eyes, but we did get awkward hugs, so that was nice." The Dodgers haven't missed the postseason since 2013. The 2020 MLB postseason will kick off its wild card round on September 29th. That's all for sports. Now let's send it back to news.
In an effort to clean California's air, Governor Gavin Newsom is putting the brakes on regular gasoline-powered cars by 2035. We talked to a member of the Environmental Student Assembly about how LA is moving towards electrical vehicles.
Another interesting component of this is Los Angeles was already slated with Garcetti's Green New Deal to be 80% on EVs by 2035 as well. And so if you're looking kind of locally at how that things change for Los Angeles because of this, it's not a super huge deal, although it will be a big deal in other parts of the state.
This law would make California the first state with a plan to stop sale of gasoline-powered cars. This will help California reach its goal of relying 100% on clean, renewable energy by 2045.
I guess Tesla's not going to be out of business anytime soon.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like we'll all be driving around in Teslas if Governor Newsom has anything to say about it.
That's crazy.
Well, that about wraps it up for us on this Wednesday. Thanks for watching.
From all of us at Annenberg TV News, have a good night.